Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. Today we are going to have about 45 minutes. We'll see. This is my first live webinar for this one, so we'll see how close to 45 minutes I get. But we're going to be talking about a resource. It's called Behavior Management Training That Sticks. So this training is ideal for folks who supervise others, who provide training for after-school staff. If you don't currently, that's okay. I think you may still be able to get something from this. So thank you for being here. To start out, if you could just put in the chat your name, your organization and your role, and the number of years that you've worked in after-school or summer programs. That would be fantastic so we can kind of see who's here today, um, kind of the experience that's already in the room. And as you do that, share name, organization, role, and number of years you've been in the field. I will introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Vadnais, and I am with Beyond School Bells. Beyond School Bells is a program of Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, and we also serve as Nebraska's statewide after-school network. So one of the things we do is provide professional development for the field and connect you all with resources. So that's what we're doing today. In a former life years ago, I was a site coordinator in Lincoln at an before and after school program. Personally, I'm a wife, I'm a mom of two boys. And my professional title at Beyond School Bells is a lot of words, but I like to say I'm an after school cheerleader. And I love resources and I love connecting people to resources. So really excited to share a resource with you today that hopefully some of you will find useful. So just to cut right into it, this is what we're talking about today. It's a kit that you can order online on this website, osttraining.com. That's where that QR code will take you as well. Oh, my blur is on a little bit, but it's a box is what you get that is filled with cards. We're going to spend time going through what's in the kit, looking through it, talking about the model today, but wanted to make sure that you got to see what that looks like. Beyond School Bells has purchased 3 of these kits. I saw Nico is on here. We sent one to Madison. So Nico has one of those. There's also one in Schuyler, and I'm going to be taking this one to Bellevue. So these are going to be out in the field. I don't know, Nico, if you would be willing, once you get started, to share your honest reviews with others. But if you're interested after this training and you want to hear how this has actually been implemented in a Nebraska program, I can get you connected to folks who have had a chance to look through this and actually try it. So let me know if you'd like to hear more. And I know this is something that costs money. So I just want to emphasize, like, I'm not selling anything. I don't get any kickbacks for anything. This is just a resource that we want to share with you. So, all right. So as we talk about training, I don't think any of this is going to be a surprise to anyone. You all have unique challenges as out of school time, after school supervisors. There's limited time for training. Your staff often are school day paras or have other jobs or are college students or high school students. They're part-time staff. You have high staff turnover because of students graduating or people moving out of the position or finding another higher paying position. And often the staff that come to you have no formal youth development training. Does this list feel right? Is there anything that's missing or other challenges you might add to the list? Feel free to unmute or put it in the chat. if you have other ideas. Joel says 100% correct. Okay, well, look at that. We got it. We got it all right. All right. So this um, model, this framework, just a little bit about the background. The creator is based in Salt Lake City, Utah. Um, she has had 20 plus years of experience working in after school programs with children and youth. And she also used current research to back these guides. And she also worked with the National Institute on Out of School Time to give some guidance in developing these discussion guides. So inside of the kit, this is one of the cards that shows this model. It's really a simple model, um, which is why it's perfect for the out of school time field. So there's 6 steps that you follow with each individual card. And 5 of the 6 steps are actually on the card. The only one that's not on the card is that coaching step. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about this model in a few minutes, but just wanted to give you a look at this because really, this is all you need to be able to master in order for you to use this and use it well. So why does this stick? It's tailored to an out of school time setting. These are topics that people have identified as, hot topics, things that staff teams need to talk about in after school. They're designed for short team meetings. We know your training time is limited, so if you can carve out 15 to 30 minutes with your team, this is a great resource. Also, anyone can lead these. It's really easy to follow. So this could provide some good leadership opportunities for your staff during these discussions. There's active involvement for all of your staff during the training process. These are discussion-based cards. There's opportunities for peers to learn from each other. And because you're focusing in on one topic at a time, staff can immediately put skills into action. So it's not, sometimes when I go to a conference, I learn so much, but then by the time I get back to my desk, most of that learning's gone. But if we can put those skills into action right away, the learning's a lot more likely to stick. It also has been shown to have a lasting impact on skills because of that topic-based coaching and feedback loop. And this really can encourage a learning culture among teams. So the magic of this really is in the coaching. The content is great, it's well designed, and it's not going to work if you're not coaching throughout the 2 to 4 weeks that you've decided to focus in on a topic. So looking back at this model, and I'll show you what a card looks like here, but then also there'll be a slide because I have this blurred, but there's a concept, a teach section, discuss, and tips are all here on this card. So that during that 15 to 30-minute staff meeting is when you would go through that. You'd have your short discussion as a staff team, and then you go into program and you are focusing in on the one that I picked out was recognizing positive behavior. So if that is your focus for the next 2 to 4 weeks, you as a supervisor are going to be watching and observing your staff and noticing the times when staff do recognize positive behavior and kind of are using the tips and the things that you learned during that discussion, maybe where there are areas of growth as well. You're making those observations and you're finding time to give feedback set goals, make action plans. Then weekly, during that 2 to 4 week period that you've decided to focus on one card, like recognizing positive behavior, you're going to do the last section of the card, which is a review. So it offers a time to check back in as a group on that topic, ask each other questions, learn from each other, learn what's going well, what's not going well, what needs to be tweaked. And then once you have done that and you've kind of worked through that one topic, you can move on to another topic and start again at number one. Is there any questions? I'm just going to pause for a minute. Any questions as we look at this model? I'm going to show you how I have put one of the cards in a Google Drive that we'll look at in a little bit. So you'll actually get to read what's on the card and take a look at that. But any questions just about generally this idea? Chat. Yes, Nico. So the way it's designed is to focus on one card at a time. But as a staff team, you've decided we're going to focus in on recognizing positive behaviors. It gives a lot more focus to the discussion as well as that coaching. You get to observe just for that and provide feedback on that piece. And it kind of creates that common language among your staff team that you're focusing in on that one piece. Obviously, if you need to give feedback on other things during that time, please do that as well. But for the coaching specifically, one card at a time. All right. So this is, again, those steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as you look at this card, which is about specifically interruptions. Don't know if anyone's ever dealt with that when teaching an after-school lesson, but the concept piece is what you would have you or another staff member could read through this concept. Then 2, you do a teaching time, which again, reading through this. If you have other resources that you can add into this, feel free. But it can be as simple as just reading through the section. 3 is discussion. I think most of the discussions have 3 questions, so pretty simple. You can choose how you format that discussion based on how much time you have. Got some tips. So for this one, there's a reference to a book that you might read, My Mouth is a Volcano by Julia Cook. So sometimes some additional resources or other pro tips that connect to that topic. So those are the 4 things you would do during your staff meeting. Coach, and then the review section. So really review is, has anyone dealt with this? How did it go? Did it go well? If not, what could we do next time? So pretty simple and straightforward. So there are 28 total cards broken up into 3 different categories. The yellow cards are community building cards. Those really focus in on the systems and skills for building a sense of community, creating that positive, safe environment, and implementing strategies that can help prevent those negative behaviors from ever starting. So really, the recommendation is there's no recommended order for doing these cards. It's totally based on what your program needs. And there is a recommendation to start with 2 or 3 of these yellow cards, because if you haven't set group norms, it's kind of hard to address individual behaviors, right? If you don't have overarching norms. So just think about what are those things you need to do foundationally, and you may already have group norms in place, and that's not necessary. And your staff are rock stars and they've got those down. But being thoughtful about, have we done enough community building before we can move on to the other sections? The most cards are in this blue category of behavior management, and they really focus in on specific topics that can sometimes be a struggle to guide positive choices. Um, so, if you've got a group that really struggles with competitive activities, or you're having some kids with lots of power struggles, um, these will allow your staff to have conversations about how are we going to address this? What's worked in the past? Here's some tips on what could work. So I think this is kind of the meat of this. Yellow's the foundational things. Blue is, I think, what a lot of people want to get into right away, or how do we deal with these things that are annoying or really challenging that kids do during programming time. Are there any of these, I'm just curious, as you look through this list, that feel like they would be particularly relevant to your program for your staff? Feel free to put it in the chat or unmute. Tattling versus telling. Oh, sounds like a theme. You're not alone, Sarah or Tanya. Uh-huh. Thanks for sharing. All right, and the last section are general skills for staff. So if there's some areas that would be helpful for staff to build around empathy, picking your battles when it comes to that tattling and telling, or other pieces like that, just general skills that help staff work with youth. All right, we are going to take a moment to do a small group discussion. I'm going to just unshare and I'm going to put this link in the chat. And the questions in the chat. This link is going to take you to the Google folder that has a card in there, the front and back of a card. And I want you to, as a group, think about and talk with each other about just a couple of questions, like how might you use this? Okay, I will read you the questions and I'll put them in the chat. If you were to introduce this kit to your team, what would be your first step? Who on your staff would benefit most from starting with this particular strategy? What support would your staff need to move from learning about this strategy to actually using it consistently in your program? What barriers might you need to address? So hopefully, did I give everyone access to that? Oh, I haven't sent it yet. Let me know if you have access to that. If not, I will go change it. And then I'll give you your questions. Are you able to access the folder? Sometimes I don't do a good job changing the access. Anyone? Can you access it? Oh, requested. Okay, I'll change it. Thank you, Eric. See, I thought of it once I got on the Zoom. Changing access now. Okay, you should be able to access it now. It should be open. Try again, and then let me know if you're able to. And then I will put you into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. put you into some groups. Yes, I can put a new link in the chat. There you go. Okay. We are ready. I'm going to open these up and I'm going to give you until, oh, good. Thank you, Erica. We'll give you until about, I'm going to give you about 8 minutes to have this conversation. I can put those questions in the chat again, and have a good conversation. All right. I am curious to hear what kind of conversation you had. Any ahas or anything anyone heard that you'd like to share?
Well, Steph, I shared the fact that we already use it. You had suggested it to Reve and I think it was last summer. I couldn't remember. We've used it all school year in our monthly DHHS meetings. I did tell them that they've benefited, the staff has. Um, I talk about the tattling and telling. It's not that the staff doesn't grip that one, it's the kids that don't grip that one. But we had a gal, the interruption one, when we did it before she started, before we taught her the concept and stuff, she would literally say to these children, "Who's talking? It's my turn to talk," instead of trying to redirect them in the way that they should be. So I know as a former teacher, I used to just stand at the front of the classroom and wait for my high schoolers to stop talking. So yeah, so it's a good concept. As someone that has used it, so I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes in summer camp, because right now I employ 4 people. In summer camp, I employ between 17 and I think I had 20 last year, and I had 17 the year before.
Yeah, that's a different ballgame for sure. Yeah. And less time probably for training throughout the summer.
Yeah.
Yep. That's great. Well, thank you for taking a little time for discussion. All right, we'll jump back into a few more slides. We're going to talk about that coaching piece, since that is where the magic happens. All right. So as we talk about coaching, the way you choose to coach your staff, when, how often, what that looks like is up to you, because it's going to vary based on who's employed in your program, how your program runs. But these are the essential elements of coaching: respect, observe, and support. When we talk about respect, right, you're building relationships with staff, establishing trust, connecting with them as human beings. Because again, that psychological safety, without that foundation, the coaching's not going to be effective. You also want to celebrate strengths, start from strengths and build from there. Observation, you want to see how it's going, right? This can be a scary, vulnerable thing for people. So addressing that, having conversations about that and what your intention is with observation. This will be a place to continue to build trust. When you observe, listen, watch your staff, that they know that you're doing it for their good and to support them. That might take some time for some people. It's very awkward for me when I feel like someone's observing me and judging what I'm doing. So just knowing that that is can be a tender spot for some people. And then support in coaching looks like asking questions, um, guiding reflections, supporting their plans, and modeling practices, showing people what you're hoping to see. So a great picture to think about coaching is coaches are like a mirror. They reflect back information rather than like a lecturer. You know, you're not going to be a professor of behavior management, but a mirror to help them improve their own practices. That's again where that magic is going to happen, rather than lecturing week after week about things. So this is kind of the general coaching cycle of goal setting, action planning, focused observation, and reflective feedback. What I love about coaching being a part of this, of the behavior management training that sticks, is really that goal setting and action planning can be a part of your discussion, right? It doesn't have to be a completely separate thing. You could think about having during your discussion time, individual staff could set goals connected with whatever topic you're focusing on. So if it's tattling versus telling, what could their specific goal be that they positively redirect 5 students who are tattling, help them set goals during that initial staff meeting. You could work on as a group the goals and an action plan, or you could work on them as individuals. Really, this kit helps you to simplify these steps. But this and then the cards help you to focus in that goal setting and action plan. The focused observation, also the focus is helpful when you have the one card. You know what you're observing for. And then giving reflective feedback that I noticed. I was curious about this. How do you think this went? Things like that. Um, when we talk about observations are focused. So you're observing for a specific reason and they're intentional. And if you're taking notes, make sure they're factual, things that you saw happen. They're objective. You have the evidence to say, this is what I saw. And then, so when you take the emotion out of it, you can say, this is what I saw. And then you can let the staff create the meaning around what you observed. Reflection involves both the coach and the staff sharing observations, those interpretations of what happened, and then ideas of what could be done differently, better. How can you continue to grow in this? The idea is that coaches should be doing more listening than speaking. Staff should lead these conversations. You also want to make sure we are addressing one thing at a time. You don't want to say, all right, here's my list of 54 times this week I saw you not doing a good job, especially, right? You want to start with strengths and then address growth areas, but one thing at a time. And as you think about reflection, again, the way you do this is up to you. I think probably for that safety creating, a one-on-one conversation is going to be best. But you could think about if you have peers who can understand those expectations of a coach role, maybe it's a peer reflection time where they're observing each other and providing some coaching, peer coaching, if that works better for your program. As you're coaching, just some tips. You want to use open-ended questions and collaborative problem solving. This is a team effort rather than lecturing about things they didn't do right. How can we work together to continue to grow? You want to notice and describe observed moments of effectiveness. So when did they do whatever you were focusing on really well? Because again, we can build off of those strengths. And we want to have a growth mindset, just like we want kids to have a growth mindset. We also want to model that and help our staff have a growth mindset that we can do things differently. We can change. My brain can continue to grow. I mentioned this already, but acknowledge that this can feel scratchy and vulnerable to be observed, to have a conversation about what was observed. So address this in the best way you can proactively before you ever start any observations. Make sure everyone knows what the norms, the ground rules are, and you're super clear about those. And make sure that the process is individualized and intentional to each staff member's needs. So again, like if maybe you can't do the one-on-one, find ways. If there's a staff that needs that one-on-one, is there a way to make that happen? Just being really thoughtful about how you are doing the coaching. So we are getting ready to wrap up. That's kind of my content around coaching. Any questions that you have about coaching staff, either using this model or something else? And or if you have done a lot of coaching with your staff, do you have tips that you can share with others? Feel free to put them in the chat or unmute. Nico said, I always like to give two good things to maybe one bad thing. Yeah, that's that compliment sandwich idea. Two strengths to one area of growth. I know you all probably have many, many tips, but it's also a Thursday morning, so lots of wisdom to share in this room. So continue to share with each other as you have tips, or send me if something really works well, let me know because I would love to hear. All right. So again, as you've gone through this whole process and you've coached, remember to review as a team before you move on to the next card. So if you are interested in getting your own kit, I'm so glad, Sarah, to know that you've been using this in Alliance. Um, it is $70. Essentially, it's at cost. The creator isn't making a ton of money off of this. It's the cost to print plus shipping. Sorry, going back to see what the tips were in the chat. Lots of college kids using praise redirection. This one staff. Okay, Danielle says, when you do notice there's one staff member who will maybe need that one-on-one, when is the best time to do this? Um, anyone have any thoughts on that? I can share my thoughts.
I'm
Go ahead, Liz.
I'm really lucky to have my college kiddos and they have a pretty sporadic schedule throughout the day. So the way I do it is um my site coordinators will kind of let me know like, hey, these are the issues happening. I'm currently working on confrontation with my site coordinators because they don't like it. Because these are also their classmates. But I will actually like oftentimes I do one-on-one meetings, even just to check in with them, be like, hey, how's college? You seem down. What's up? Like, how's life? Like pulling in that I'm still here to listen. And then as I get to listen to what they tell me, I put it into, okay, so these might be what's affecting my kid or like my staff during the day. So I'm really lucky to be able to schedule some meetings and just be like, okay, first off, tell me about you. And then I'll be like, okay, so, and I'm very, very upfront and very transparent with them. I'll be like, so there's been some complaints. Let's figure it out together. Oftentimes they tell me I can be pretty blunt and straight to the point with them, but they also tell me often that they let me they appreciate that I'm gonna get straight to the point and be like, okay, yeah, I'm not doing this today. Let's talk about it. So
Yeah, I love that.
I
Go
would
ahead.
say I have a piece of advice that my principal actually gave to me in the aspect of if it's like just a maybe not a such a serious thing, but if it's something that correction would be of benefit for all of your staff, as a reminder for all of your staff to address it that way first. So if it's not just maybe it is an issue with just this one staff member, but if it's readdressing it as a benefit to the whole, starting there. And then if you're not seeing any changes being made in that regard, then finding a way to then address them individually. I will say I have had a staff member that I addressed as a whole to all staff, saw something continue with the one. I just happened to be near that staff member when the situation happened. And so I just politely reminded them in that moment, hey, that's not acceptable. Or, hey, next time I need you to do it this way. So just trying to make myself available or in the situation with them so that way then I could correct it as it was happening. So it wasn't so confrontational. I haven't had any real issues, well, at least not alarming issues since then. I think they are more self-aware in that aspect. So
It's great. Thank you for sharing that. It is 10:45, so if anyone needs to head out now, feel free to go. I can hang out and we can, because I love this conversation. So if you'd like to hang out, if you have more questions, more tips, let me know. I'm putting my email in the chat. Email me if you want to connect. You want to stay in on for additional conversation? Absolutely. Thank you all for being here.
Stephanie, I'm going to actually dip out, but I wanted to let you know I already actually sent you an email. So
Okay, great.
okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Right back.
Thanks.